and welcome back to Let's Play Katana 0 for the last time, unless that special extra chapter gets added sometime in the near future. But who knows when that'll happen, so we can just presume for now that this will be the last episode where we play the hard mode. And oh boy, this was an endeavor, because it lives up to that name. The settings I picked for this were more or less identical to my speed run, except I flicked on the true final boss to keep this as full as possible, so this will be interesting when we get there. And also, I turned off the timer, so I didn't have to stress about that while I was playing. However, I left the death count on, and we will be seeing that go up quite a lot throughout this entire playthrough. Obviously, I'm post-commentating right now. I recorded this over the course of a few days, because my work schedule was weird the week I was doing this. And it took me 3.5 hours, thereabout, to completely finish this. As you can see, that is the first instance of me cutting ahead to all the times I died. We got 9 right there. That is setting the tone for come. As you can see, hard mode does not mess around as soon as you start off. The layouts are much more difficult, and there are a lot of traps that we scarcely ever saw in normal mode that we will see a ton. In particular, I'm pretty sure in the first episode of the Let's Play I mentioned that we basically never see the bullet traps. They are all over the place in hard mode. You will be seeing a ton of them. I did my best to edit this down so that it cuts ahead after my first death, but my editing wasn't perfect on this. As you can see, I left quite a bit of this first one in. For this first level, I felt it didn't need to be cut down too heavily since I didn't die too much, but, well, relatively speaking, because as you see, my counter's at 51 there, but there were some times where it's like, okay, I'm dying way too much. I'm racking up like 70 deaths here. We're just gonna have to cut ahead. Alright, but first level sets the tone pretty well. A lot of the areas mostly just more densely packed with enemies. Not too many alternate traps, though as you saw on the last screen there, we could not flick the lasers off. I'm trying to think if I forgot to mention anything else. Yes, so it was like 3.5 hours. As you can see from the time, I've edited this down to a little over 50 minutes, so yeah, this took quite a while to edit. I'm actually a day behind on recording this because of that, but you know how it goes sometimes. Now, second level, actually this one was not too bad. It did not go nearly as horribly as some of the other levels in this run, but still, I'm just trying to, like, these first few levels are not terribly interesting, because what they do is mostly just pack it with more enemies. Later on, we're going to be seeing a lot more traps. The aforementioned bullet traps are all over the place in hard mode, and we're going to actually be seeing unique enemies that are exclusive to hard mode. Kind of disappointing. Some of them, well, there's 2 new unique enemies, and they'd honestly have been pretty interesting in a less sadistic challenge, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm recording this in post. This is what I was trying to get to, because this would just be way too hard for me to do live commentary. I'd probably die twice as much and balloon it out even more. So we're just doing this post-commentary and edited down to a reasonable length. If I left the raw footage in, well, first off, I'd run out of stuff to say really quickly, and also, that would just be way too tedious to watch. I'm actually amazed. This room, as you can see, I did not edit that at all. I somehow managed to do that one on the first try. It was kind of impressive considering gun guys came in from both angles. Ow. Well, that was embarrassing. See, this would have otherwise been a deathless room if I had not rolled into that laser. Yeah. Early on, I wasn't too focused on editing it down to my deaths. If I felt like it went by quick enough, I left it in, but very few rooms in hard mode did I actually manage to successfully clear on the first try, or even within 1 death, and there are a couple in this run, but otherwise I mostly died, like, you know, in the tune of double digits, sometimes upwards of like between 70 and 100 times. And I flicked on the true final boss to make this interesting, and that turned out to be a huge mistake, because that was where a huge chunk of my deaths came. Like, almost an hour alone came from the true final boss. And 400 extra deaths on top of that, but we'll be getting to that when we get to that. Otherwise, level 2, this one's actually not that different from the normal version of the level, so it's honestly not bad and kind of fun, really. Club Neon. This level actually went very smoothly. again, like level 2 at the Murdower Hotel, this one's not terribly different from how it normally is, so... as you can see, the dance floor has shotgun guys running around, which means absolutely nothing, because you just die immediately if you get spotted, but as a nice little visual touch, I guess. I took this the slow way, just so I didn't rack up any deaths early on. I didn't really feel like rushing through this. I had vastly underestimated how long this is going to take. I had thought it was only going to be slightly harder. It might have taken me an hour and a half tops, not over 3, and as I've said previously, I recorded this over the course of a couple of days because it was just taking so long. It wasn't lending itself to my work schedule, and, you know, honestly, I just felt like doing other things sometimes. But I got through it. And I got all the achievements for this game on Steam on top of that. Once we get around to the mutual nil prison, we will just be cutting ahead to when I actually successfully clear the room anytime I die. Unless I happen to clear it on the second go, in which case there wouldn't be any cutting. But yeah, in these first ones, it's going by quick enough and my deaths are early on enough. I don't cut out absolutely every death. Now here is the first new enemy, these martial art guys, and we do not get to see at all what they do in this room, but we will be seeing that shortly. As you can see, you cannot break the vent up there in this version of the level, so you actually gotta cut your way through these guys a bit more effectively. But I managed that on the next go, or rather, yeah, like... actually, I wasn't paying attention to the death counter there. I would just assume that I die a ton in every level. Another martial arts guy. Again, we don't get to see his unique ability, but we will be demonstrating it, or we will be seeing it, and I'll explain how it works. Took this one really slow. As you can see, the laser traps are moving a bit more faster, although there is less of them, weirdly enough. And turret there. I just destroyed it for the heck of it, and I'm surprised I did not get hit by that turret. That, I will admit, that was just luck. Alright, so you saw how that guy threw a kick? Well, there we go. The martial arts guys, they are the one enemy in the game that actually has some kind of counter to your roll, as in their primary ability is that they counter your roll. If you roll into them, they just kick you out of it. And they'll try to follow up with a punch to kill you, although you can just stand back up and immediately cut them down. Yeah, this one is pretty rough, because as soon as a shot is fired, just all these guys start collapsing on you. Had a bit of luck there with the assault rifle guy just not stopping and shooting me right away. The shotguns are much easier to dodge than the rifles. And this room, again, another one that's not terribly different from how it is in normal mode. Got tougher enemies, but not too bad otherwise. Man, I can't believe I got killed by that guy. Yeah, well, gotta have some embarrassing deaths in a Katana Zero Let's Play, you know? Oh, wow! I don't know how I missed that one in editing. I clearly should have watched this more carefully, but, you know, I was just looking at the big pictures like, man, this is gonna take forever, so... On the early levels, that went quicker anyway. I didn't focus too much on it. And I don't really feel like doing any more cutting down to get rid of that, so we will just embarrass myself. Mutual Nil Prison, very different from how it is normally. Obviously, we're going to be killing everybody to get through here, but I do not think you can actually stealth this level in hard mode. The enemy configurations are way too dense, and there is a lot of traps to throw you off, which we will be seeing soon. Unfortunately, you do still have to do the slow rolling through the prison while nobody is here. Would have been kind of interesting if there were obstacles before the enemies actually showed up, but sadly, inexplicably, after we get to Fa Yuan Cell, there will be obstacles all of a sudden. Here we go. This is the first instance of gratuitous bullet traps. They are everywhere in hard mode, and they really, really mess with your approach to levels. Man, I did not cut this down at all. That's okay, though. That shotgun guy just kind of lost interest. Yeah, early on, I was not really good at dealing with the martial arts guys. After seeing them enough, I generally figured out how to time my slashes a bit better so that I wouldn't just get kicked across the room trying to roll into them. But early on, there was just a lot of that, like, okay, these guys completely mess with my standard procedure for dealing with enemies, as you can see right there. So I got hit by them a lot. This room was a little bit weird. You do have to, it is in your best interest to wait for those guys to go up the stairs, because if you don't take them out, you suddenly got 5 guys coming up this side. Also, you may have noticed, enemies do not trigger the bullet traps. That is unfortunate and also very annoying. But yeah, the bullet traps just all over the place in hard mode, and they make movement very, very tricky. If you mistime things even a little, either you'll get killed by an enemy or you'll just blunder right into the bullet trap. Also, something we see more of is those gun drones. We don't see these too much more often, but we do see them more than in normal mode, where we only saw them in Chinatown. This is a pretty fun little screen, just a huge density of enemies, and you gotta approach them the right way to not aggro them immediately. Now, the studio. This one actually went surprisingly well, a lot better than I expected. With, you know, all the long sections, like the Temple of Doom, Chapel of Doom, I'm sorry. Not referencing Indiana Jones at all. I thought this was going to be one of the hardest levels in the game, but it actually was not too bad. They did not jack up the difficulty of the rooms in this level too much, so it's just slightly more taxing. In fact, I think I do this minecart trip on the first go, which I was surprised by. Oh, never mind, I just get shot in the face immediately. My short-term memory is not good. I feel like the next one I don't die, but we will see. Okay, apparently I did. I don't know how I missed this in editing. Embarrassing. That's okay though. Yeah, this is definitely a very annoying one to have to get through. But we made it. I don't know why I was rolling through that, just for style, I guess. They can't even reach you at the edge of the platform, so yeah, I could have just stayed there for safety. Sometimes you gotta make your own fun, you know? Yeah, that was just, like, I saw that guy right there. Okay, there's no way I'm gonna be able to slash this guy without getting killed. I gotta reflect the bullet. Oh yeah, like the speedrun, the focus mechanic is disabled, slow time, whatever it's called. Again, I never use it, so I don't think too much about it. Towards the end, I was kind of like, maybe it would make it a little bit easier on myself if I enabled it, but I decided to stick to my guns, and I managed to do it, so, you know. Kind of wish there was an achievement for that, but there is not. Just for completing hard mode in general. It is nice to have that shiny medal on my Steam page for this game. And that was the Chapel of Doom. It was not too bad. Quiet Hills was actually one that I was expecting to be really brutal, and while I did die a bit on the last room, this first room was actually not too bad. Am I gonna do it in the first try? Why, yes I did. Very nice. This is one that I felt like I could have done in one try, but I just kind of, you know, choked on the execution a little. Mostly I was overly intimidated by the end stretch here. As you can see, these guys were not lined up very well for me, and I just got kicked by the martial arts guy. That was not one of my better plays. Ended up racking a few more deaths in this room because of that. I was clearly hurrying too much to get through this. Okay, now that actually looked kind of cool. Guy was just kicking me across the room, but eventually. Alright, next up is a Space Uncertainty. Hi, Coffin Head. I just decided to kill him for the heck of it. Space Uncertainty, you know, it's got that really tricky first room, although I don't think I did too bad on the second room in it. But why even contemplate it? It's coming up right now. Let's see how I do here. I would have laughed if I had just accidentally walked into the lasers. Man, those turrets are annoyingly placed in this level. Yep, case in point. There we go, I could have sworn I did that at least once. Sometimes I just go too fast for my own good. In hindsight, I probably didn't need to wait for that guy to throw the Molotov cocktails. Again, the shotgun guys are surprisingly non-threatening. I remember this one well. It was very annoying way to pack the enemies up there. As you can see, they place those martial arts guys really deviously. Always in crowds with guys who can really capitalize on the kicks, whether it be the swordsman who can just slash you on and get up, or, you know, just have a gunman behind them and blast you as you're knocked over. But that one went surprisingly well. I didn't even need to scope it out too much. The mansion coming up, that is where things started to go really badly, and that's where we're going to see some excessive flash forwarding. Because, believe me, you do not want to watch me die on the same room like 75 times, and that is not an exaggeration. I did rack up that many deaths on some of the more difficult rooms. And, not a fun memory, really. This one was so close to being a clean clear, but I kind of screwed up at the end, as you'll see. See, almost done there, and then just right into the bullet trap. I almost had it. And, you know, just a few more deaths there for flavor. Funnily enough, I was learning how to better use Vegas as I was going through this because the editing was taking longer than I liked, and found out some interesting tools like the auto ripple tool to immediately delete space between splits in my clips. It's a funny way to word that. And that went surprisingly well there. Just toss that smoke grenade in there for safety's sake. Oh boy, that is not even the worst example of bullet traps we've seen yet. So, bosses in this game, they actually do get upgraded and they're a lot tougher. V is probably the least interesting one of the changed bosses. He is he's just more aggressive and he attacks faster, as you can see right there. I was tempted to play around with trying to parry the bullets, but his timing is way different from the normal version of this level. As you can see, I kind of choked towards the end there, getting caught off guard by the number of charges he was doing. I will admit, I'm kind of annoyed I missed that sword slash. I was just barely in front of him when he shot me. Fortunately, I did actually manage to beat him legitimately. I did not need snow to bail me out. Though I did not actually show that off in the actual Let's Play. If you die enough on V, eventually the cutscene with snow just plays regardless of how you did. I think the comment she makes is slightly different depending on how you get through it. But I've never really played it enough to check it out. You know, just not that interesting. Anyways, the mansion. This first screen kind of lowballs what's to come, but this level ended up being extremely brutal, specifically the mansion section. I died a lot on specific rooms in this level. Managed to get through the first one, but here we go. This one, this is the party room. This is where the bullet traps really come to a head. So yeah, as you can expect, I die immediately here, and BAM! 74 deaths on the count. I died so much on this room. It is so bad. These guys are so awkwardly positioned, and that bullet trap right there just totally messes up your way to enter that level. And you got laser traps here. You need 3 guys. That assault rifle guy towards the end, you can barely make him out, and you definitely can't see him until you're on the bottom floor, so it is just so easy to get killed by him. That one took forever. This one also took some time, though it was not nearly as bad as the previous room. That was actually a pretty sweet reflect. Go past me. Now, unfortunately, I missed the shutter kill on that guy, but he was no threat. Very slight change there, 2 guys there. Might mess you up if you mistime your roll, but otherwise not too bad. This is another tricky room, another one that makes effective use of the martial arts guys with the traps and the gun enemies. It was at this point that I decided to carry the pot up there so that I had something to throw at the one gun guy, as you can see. Oh, now I changed it, I threw it at the martial art guy. Remembering my own strategies that I developed. Yeah, I actually got pretty decent at bullet reflecting by the end of this because it was a fairly essential skill, as you can see. Now this room actually went surprisingly well. I don't think I died on this one, actually. I was expecting this one to be horrible, but it's not too bad. You don't get your flamethrower, so you don't have a safe way to clear out the bottom floor. But I managed to make it in relatively safe circumstances. I decided I wasn't going to try my luck on deflecting a bullet coming up from there. I'm just going to go through in a more counterclockwise manner, or rather, this is a clockwise manner. And that all worked out. I almost got killed by the guy right there as I was a bit slow coming down from the top floor, but again, I managed. This room, on the other hand, this was a freebie room in the original version of the game, but in this one, well, I've really hammered in just how irritating the bullet traps are, but just look at this. Like, this is so difficult to approach. Pretty much the only saving grace you have is the very limited vision these guys have, so you can take things a bit more slowly than you would be able to otherwise, and that's what helped me get through it. Alright, next up, Mr. Kissyface. This fight is much more interesting than V's fight, because one, he actually gets a new move, and in general, it's tougher in a more interesting way. We'll be seeing that coming up. First off, he does attack a lot faster, as you can see. But also, when we get into a blade clash with him, his gauge goes down much more slowly. Pretty much have to do a little bit more than double the number of clashes that we had to do in normal mode. Yeah, timing those spin attacks was actually very difficult. I don't know if I actually managed to land a hit whenever he did that. I did mention that he has a new attack. We'll be seeing it towards the end, because that's when he starts using it. Alright, right about here. Throws a bomb at you. And yeah, as you can see, I was not prepared for that. So those little things that catch you off guard sometime, but hey, that is why Zero has precognition. It allows him to foretell that is coming, and thus he can fight a bit better. Surprised I actually managed to hit him, like, as he was throwing it. Yeah, that did not go very well. That spin attack, it's a pretty tricky attack to time, even in normal mode. In hard mode, it is ridiculously hard to hit him when he's doing that. But hey, I managed it. I honestly forgot that I was able to hit him when he did that. So yeah, he can use the bomb attack sooner. I was just kind of unlucky to get caught by it at a very unfortunate time. It did not help that he decided to use his lunge attack as I was in the air. I don't think he reacts to what you do at all. He just kind of cycles through his moves and uses random ones. You got him here? No, of course not. Looks like he does follow up the bomb attack with a lunge most of the time, though. And there we go. He is toast. Onto the bike segment. Well, like normal, this is a pretty fun segment, and also not a terribly difficult one. It's honestly, again, it's another one of those ones that's not too different. They just increase the enemy density. You may notice, though, that these guys, not only do their bullets move much faster, they also have a much shorter cooldown between shots. That does make it a bit tricky when they come in those big groups like that and they all fire at once, but otherwise not too bad. This is one of the ones, like, this is what I was expecting the whole game to be like, you know, just slightly more difficult, not incredibly more difficult. Also, because I did not die very much on this section, it was quite easy on the editing, which I appreciated. I don't think there's anything different about the crowbar bike, guys. You know, there was something I was going to mention, and I forgot what it was, and it is just irritating me. I'm sure I'll remember it at, like, the worst possible time. Okay, now that was pretty sick. You ever just watch things that you did previously in games and just be impressed by them? Sometimes I do that. Not often, though. Yeah, it's still the bike section. Not much more to say about it right now. The boss fight with V, now that actually has something worth commentating on. Because, again, it's not too terribly different, save for one devious addition it has, which we'll get there when we get there. Man, this is just thinking about, now I'm just thinking about how my speedrun had my very first time actually getting hit by one of the cars. It was only when I was recording that I actually got hit by a car ever. I feel like I just got lucky there. I didn't get blasted in the face by that guy. I was definitely feeling myself with some of these bullet reflex and kind of going for them in inopportune times. As you can see, I'm just kind of swinging wildly at points. That was me going for bullet deflex. As you can see, it was not a very good idea. I think at this point I kind of realized it. But, looks like I stuck to my guns. Ow. See, that's what you get for sticking to your guns. At the very least, we get to hear a good amount of the rather fun bike music. This run was actually one of the few times I got to listen to a good amount of full confession in the actual game. Otherwise, I just hear the full song in the OST because the headhunter is usually dead in 30 seconds. Okay, do I finally get this time? No. Yeah, I decided to just leave the bike section in unedited because I didn't die too gratuitously. It's not that much longer than how it is in either the speedrun or the standard game. Maybe I could have edited this section down though. Oh well, you know what they say, hindsight is 20/20. I don't think those machine gun guys are any different either. It's just the regular pistoliers. Man, new mecha jousting is crazy, isn't it? Alright, but we finally made it to V. Just whack him off his bike so he's coming in from the right side of the screen, as per usual. Now, here we go. This is where it gets tricky. As you can see, the missile salvo attack where he launches them in rows, now it also launches missiles that follow you. It took me quite a while to figure out a good way to dodge this, because trying to dodge the trailing missiles while not getting hit by the columns, very tricky proposition as it turns out. Now, how does the alternate fire work, where he has the trailing missiles and the occasional bombardments? Basically the same as it is in normal mode, I just think there's slightly more bombardments. It's really that opening missile salvo that has the trailing shots. That's what made this fight hard. I died a lot on that until I figured out how to consistently maneuver around it. Hey look, it's our second new enemy. These are the heavy machine gun guys. We won't get to see too much of what this one does, because I just kill him immediately. But these guys, quite annoying, as we'll find. Yeah, what I was trying to do here is, before going down, just reflect that shot, and then kill these guys. Worked out pretty well, honestly. Yeah, I didn't take my usual approach, because the way the enemies were lined up did not work out very well for that. There's another heavy machine gun guy up there, and I can kill the first assault rifle guy easily enough, but then this guy just rips me to shreds. And I just got his attention so he'd take the doorway down, because that is safer. Second room, not too different, though as you can see, it's got the heavy machine gun guy. I die a couple times here, but eventually I figure out a way to get through these guys. There's a few strategies I came up with to getting past those guys if they're already firing. The one you saw right there is the one that I use most commonly, and that was just timing my rolls so I'm rolling under the fire. That requires doing pretty much frame-perfect rolls, so I'm not very good at doing it consistently. This room took me a while to figure out a good approach to. Eventually I just decided to deflect the machine gun fire and rush to the right side of the screen and see if I can just best cut through the guys there. I did not have much strategy beyond just reacting well there. Yeah, these heavy machine gun guys are very difficult to deal with if you don't have a good strategy. And once again, it's just an instance of a bullet trap making things a lot more complicated than they otherwise would be. Yeah, I just let these guys come through the door. It was in this mode that I decided to take things a bit more slowly and let the enemies come to me, rather than put myself at too much risk, just because if I keep forcing myself through to do things in a very difficult way, I'm just going to die a ton, it's going to take a lot more time. Also, this is the point where I pretty much just edit straight to the attempt where I get it, because I die so much on basically every screen going forward. That wasn't too bad, though. Yeah, so strategies for dealing with the heavy machine gun guys, as you can see, other things that you can do: try to deflect the shot while you're moving to a different level of elevation. The remaining shots will go over your head, but the one you deflected will still go into the machine gun guy. Another one that I developed towards the end of the game is using air slashes to keep yourself in the air and vault over their line of fire, because they do not adjust their aim particularly well. This was a relatively interesting screen. As you can see, I just get blasted by a gun drone immediately. So this one changes up slightly. As you can see, a heavy machine gun guy comes out of the left van. Makes things a little bit trickier if you don't expect him, but once you know he's there, you get a better idea of how to position yourself, because the enemies that come out of the right van are not too threatening. I forget, do I clear this one on the first go? I think I do, actually. Oh, that was very close. I can imagine I was panicking quite a bit there. Almost let that machine gun guy get a chance to fire. That one actually did, but I timed the rolls right. This cop car turns into a clown car on the hard mode, but it was not too bad. And here we go, the dragon tapes. The back half of this level, absolutely brutal. I died so much on those. Well, actually, now that I think about it, no, it was just the third one that I died a ton on. Actually, the final room it was kind of the opposite scenario. It went way better than I was expecting. This room also, I expected to be just absolutely torturous, but again, this one went way better than I expected. This is the one time I confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt that you cannot parry turret bullets back into them to destroy them. I'd honestly never noticed one way or the other because of the ways they're usually positioned. Now this room, on the other hand, let's just watch the death counter here. Bam! 75! Yeah, this one did not go very well, and it took me a while to figure out a good approach to it. This is actually a bit different from how it usually goes. Usually those guys tend to hear me and are running up the stairs, but they didn't do that this time, which kind of made it slightly easier. Now again, here's another instance where a bullet trap just makes things so much more difficult. If that scrolling bullet trap is not positioned just right, you will just go straight into it off of that dragon dash. So yeah, I rack up a few deaths at the start of this room. Martial arts guy made me sweat a bit, but afterwards I actually find a decent approach to get through this room without too much trouble, which kind of impressive to me because it actually looks pretty brutal. I love exploiting that the guys just can't interact at all when you cut them through the doors. I take a lot of advantage of that in this mode. As you can see, that machine gun guy is very precariously placed, so I'm thinking about how to best get to him, and I just decided to go for it at this point, and jump up here, and I will just go for him. And I almost went into that laser trap. That was what I was so scared of. Incidentally, I didn't bring any attention to it, but that was the end of the first recording there, in the third room of the Dragon Tapes. It was at that point I realized I'm not going to get this done before I have to go to work, or if I do, it's like that's the next thing I gotta do, so I just stopped it there. This recording of the slaughterhouse I started the next day, but it did not last very long, because I got to, like, the third room, and I died a very ridiculous number of times. I just, I'm not having fun right now, I don't feel like this, so I'll just resume this on the weekend. And that's when I recorded the final two clips. The third clip has a bit of a interesting thing that happened in the middle of it, although I did not retain it in the recording. Anyways, you probably noticed in the second room there's no way to avoid triggering Leon's video clip. I did spend a few deaths trying to figure out if there was some way to finagle that, but no. You have to go through this with Leon blasting at you, and you have to do the gauntlet at the end, though it is not as brutal as you'd expect. One thing different to note about Leon's rifle shots in this mode is that, well, you probably noticed, they explode, and that obviously makes them harder to avoid, but at the same time, that also can be used to your advantage, because those rifle shots blow up and kill the enemies. Also, you notice the death counter jumped up to over 100 at this point. This was where I just started dying a ton because this room turned out to be very difficult, and I just wasn't feeling it, so I cut the recording and resumed the next day. Thankfully, I didn't bring attention to this earlier, but it's relevant now. When you end a speed run, it saves your progress, and so long as you choose to continue it next time, it'll stay there until you get back to it, which is nice for hard mode. But funnily enough, when I finally did complete that room, it was actually on the first try of the next started recording. This was another room that I was kind of dreading, but it actually turned out to not be that bad. It's kind of funny. The general thing I've noticed is that the really, easy freebie rooms on normal mode are much more difficult on hard mode and easily become some of the hardest rooms in the game. The already really difficult rooms, they are not that much worse. This section where the rifleman is replaced by a heavy machine gun guy, it took me a lot of tries to find a consistent way to deal with the heavy machine gun guy. As you can see, I just kind of said, forget it, and just rushed into that room and saw what happened, and it worked out. This time I did a bit of a goofy thing. I decided to do the absolute safest strategy, just let the conveyor belt move all the guys in front of the door, and then I can kill the vast majority of them with a single door slam. Now, this room is where I started to feel that this playthrough was cursed, because just randomly at the 7-minute mark of the recording of the part 3 of the video, or the raw footage rather, the game just crashed for no obvious reason. And I was pretty frustrated with that, but I decided to press on, and we are now on the 4th raw video, where I finally finished the game, and this one is an hour and 37 minutes, and more than half of that was the final boss. Oh boy. But, again, this is another room that is really difficult, gives me a lot of trouble on normal mode, not that much worse on hard mode. But as you can see, we cannot get around Leon's Death Gauntlet in hard mode. But it is not quite what you'd expect. In normal mode, of course, we had 3 trials we had to get through. We had the Crushers, we had the Enemy Gauntlet, and then we had the Lasers while Leon took pot shots at us. In hard mode, we just go straight to the Death Gauntlet, and we've got a bullet trap going across the room. I'm not really sure why they got rid of the Crusher section, nor am I really sure why they removed the laser section. I guess they just felt there wasn't any way they could make those sections harder without it just being completely unfair, so they decided to just cut them out entirely. As you can see, this gauntlet is pretty brutal. It took me a while to figure out how to react to the heavy machine gun guys coming out, and that was the last one, actually. It goes by quicker than you'd expect. You gotta wait for Leon to take his last shot before the video goes. That room is where I really took advantage of the fact that the sniper shots can actually kill enemies for you. You might have noticed I was positioning myself on the doors as the shots were going off to kill the guys coming in. Really handy for that first batch of heavy machine gun guys that come in. And we have no choice but to listen to Leon yammer on. Fortunately, and a small mercy, in this second room where you have to listen to him flap his gums, he just immediately blasts the Chrono stash. Actually, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a Chrono stash. You can't do anything with it when you grab the key, so I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be. Maybe it's the ingredients for Chronos. We don't really learn too much about Chronos, nor do we really learn the contents of that table beyond the key, so it's hard to say what Leon was doing there. Anyway, the bunker, much like it is in normal mode, this is just a bunch of short but sweet rooms where you die rapidly but clear them rapidly. That was the moment where I realized I could use aerial slashes to sort of vault over the heavy machine gun guys' arc of fire. Had to develop a lot of different techniques on the fly to survive this mode. This is another room that, as you can see by my death counter jumping up a ton, it took me a while to figure a reliable way to get through it, but I managed. This one was surprisingly not that bad. As you can see, the death counter only went up by 3. It's not too different in principle from the normal version. The timing's just slightly different. And here's another room that is just rough to get through. There's me using the jump slashes again to get over the heavy machine gun guy. At that point I realized, wait, I have a bottle. Instead of letting this guy just slap me across the room, let me just throw it. And I did time it right, so it all worked out. Yeah, I absolutely despise the the riot shield enemies. They are just so annoying. Funnily enough, that room is also not really that different from normal mode. You don't have the Molotov cocktail to corral the guys at the top of the room, but otherwise it's just bullet them. Funnily enough, this is coming up a lot, but again, that room, not too different. It's basically the same solution. You just gotta time your rolls really well, and you get through it just fine, bullet traps or no. It's kind of interesting to see the ones that look tough, but they're actually really simple and basically just the same as they are on the normal mode. I was quite frustrated with myself that I messed up the timing on that roll, and that's all I needed to do to get through that. I think I was half tempted to actually take the left side to the right in this run, but I decided to stick with the way I was familiar with. Also timed that deflect pretty well. I was really hoping this room would actually have some kind of ridiculous trap for you, but sadly it was not to be. It's just another freebie room. Anyways, you guys remember this room on normal mode? Yeah, it's got that guy to kick you into the lasers now. Gotta really time your slash well, especially so you don't vaporize yourself. Otherwise, the room's basically the same. You know, I throw the thing to lure the guys over, then I come down from the top, take them all out at once. Just has that one devious trap right at the start. And that was just me dying to a shotgun blast I could have easily avoided. This room is actually very annoying. It's easy enough to get up top there when it's just sword guys, but now you've got gunmen and bullet traps. Once again, very annoying. Also, I do not kick through the door because it is a bad idea. Instead, I use the same strategy as the previous room. I throw something to lure the guys over, and then I take them all down at once. And we make it through. Alright, the stairwell. I forget how much I die on this one. Thinking back on it, oh yeah, this one definitely was brutal. 71 deaths right there. I'm trying not to repeat myself too much, but a lot of these rooms really do rely on the same trick to pad out the difficulty. It's just really inconvenient enemies in front of a really inconveniently placed and inconveniently timed bullet trap. You gotta find the best way to get through it. Also, 2 machine gun guys down at the bottom there. Messed up my plan was to throw something at both of them, but as you saw, I accidentally threw the bust into the stairs, so it's just like, alright, I'm just gonna have to toss the cleaver and hopefully I can reflect the bullet or something, and I managed. I do like how it's just like 8 punching guys right there. That was, I think, maybe 6. Alright, we managed. This room, it's not that much harder than it is on normal mode. Once again, I'm trying not to repeat myself too much, but again, it's just slightly different enemies, and we've got bullet traps. This end stretch is basically identical. I mean, there's one extra turret and a couple more guys to hit you, but otherwise, it's just the same. Yeah, not the most interesting room. Now, this room, on the other hand, the final room, this one I actually developed a completely different approach for getting through because the enemies that are placed here, much more difficult, much more deviously placed, so I take a bit of a different approach to it. So I come up here, and I take out these guys so I don't have to deal with them later. Now, I kick this door open, throw the bomb, and just take all those guys out. As you can see, the shotgun guy and sometimes a rifleman come down with that guy. Doing it like that means I do not have to face them on the way back. If I just went straight to the bottom level, I'd have a very hard time getting through those guys up top, so I decided it was best to take them out first, then go my usual route. I'm sorry if I kind of butcher my explanations, I'm not very good at explaining things. Yeah, I definitely spent a lot of time figuring out the best way to approach this room, and there were many close calls. Like, as you can see, those guys in the final room there, just a bunch of gunmen, all boxed up like that. It's very easy to get hit if you mistime your bullet deflects. As you can see, I was also being overly cautious with the bullet trap, because I just knew at this point I could absolutely roll through it and get myself blasted. But we're at the Headhunter, Phase 1. As you can see, she fires that shot much faster, so you have to be quicker. She also dodges out of the way, so gotta be a bit more mindful of what she's doing. Now we've got 4 enemies coming in, and of course it's a very annoying configuration, but we manage. But yeah, you can actually not hit her from the front when she's prepping the laser, so you have to pay attention to what she does next to try and get through to her. It's actually not too bad with the heavy machine gun guy there. Once again, way to go, me. And now, while I got to hear plenty of full confession, we're just gonna die relatively early on in this fight, and then cut right to the successful attempt. Apologies if there is somebody out there who did want to see just a cavalcade of non-stop death. As you can see, we've got 2 sets of wall-mounted turrets here. She fires way too fast for me to cut her out of the air in this version of the fight, so I don't even bother trying. As you can see, a lot of interesting new shot patterns. It was actually that last shot right there that always tripped me up. The one that just appears briefly in front of her and then quickly just vaporizes you. I kept mistiming that so badly so often, which contributed to like the remaining 50 deaths that I got in this level. But hey, we managed. But that is not the end of the hard mode run. We've got one more fight to get through. And I'm just gonna say this was hands down the hardest section in the game. Specifically 2 parts of it were the hardest section in the game. As you can see, we have to go through our usual rigmarole with them. Zero does not like his attitude. He goes to throw his punch. But, oh, no, what's this? He's fighting back? I'm saying this like we haven't seen this before. But, once again, we've got the psychotherapist. Fortunately, in this fight, we get an immediate idea of what's going to be different, because bam! 4 hands instead of 2. That said, this is easy. This is probably one of the easiest sections of the fight. The only section that I did better on was the giant eyes section. We've got more hands to deal with and they come out faster, but it's pretty much the same fight otherwise for this first section. That said, I do, of course, die right here. But, as you can see, only 4 deaths on this section, so not too bad. I have to admit, this is actually one of the more unique boss gimmicks, and I actually quite appreciate this section of the fight. So got very cool visuals. Fortunately, you can, if you're caught low like that, you can still very easily break out no matter how much you get caught. That was very close. I was positive I was gonna die there. But this next phase... Oh, and there's another very close call. Not sure if that is a testament to my mashing or if I just got lucky. Here we go, here we go. Yep, 326 deaths. I died so much on this section, so much. This is hands down the hardest thing in the game, the second phase of the psychotherapist fight. The projectiles just come out so fast, and there are so many more of them. I'm honestly shocked how perfect that bit that I got on recording there went. It took me, like, oh man, between half hour and 40 minutes to get that. Surprisingly, the part you'd think I would die guaranteed on the first time, this eyeball section, I actually got it perfectly the first go, which I was impressed by, because this is clearly supposed to be relying on you not knowing what's going to be happening. No, OBS did not screw up here. It's like this in-game. And this one's basically identical to how it was in normal mode. You're the light blue one, you just gotta hit the light blue eyes. And good like gravy. And here we go. Final phase. Unfortunately, because we're in speedrun mode and this is on stable seed, this guy has the same pattern every time. I'm not sure if having a random seed would make this easier or harder. On the one hand, I couldn't just get his attacks down to muscle memory. On the other hand, there is a chance that he wouldn't use very annoying attacks that tend to throw me for a loop, such as calling up the little enemies that shoot projectiles at you. As you can see, I just totally screwed up there. And his pattern, if you die once, deviates slightly, but otherwise it's completely the same throughout. And eventually I just got this down to muscle memory. But definitely the hardest thing for me in this fight was killing these little guys that he summons while still dodging his attacks. If you lose track of those little guys, the projectiles they throw at you are just so threatening to your health. It's so easy to just get nailed by them. But as you can see, I eventually figured out a good way to deal with them relatively painlessly. I just got all these needle attacks like down to second nature by the end of it. And the final hits. And that was hard mode. As you can see, it was pretty hard. Let's get our final statistics here. Of course, we have to grab our sword and then say that that was a terrible therapy session. Let's go home. 1,531 deaths, 3 hours, 21 minutes. Ouch. But that is the end of Let's Play Katana Zero. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope to see you for whatever my next project is. Until then, goodbye.